In the shadow of a sprawling city, a man once stumbled upon an ancient scroll, its edges frayed and its ink faded. Yet it held the secrets of a world long forgotten. This scroll, inscribed with the oldest stories known to humanity, was not just a collection of tales. It was a key to understanding the very fabric of human civilization. Among these stories were the narratives of the Hebrew Bible, a collection of texts that have shaped the moral, ethical, and cultural landscapes of millions around the globe. These narratives, however, are not monolithic. They are diverse, each with its own distinct style and purpose. By exploring these styles, we can uncover the layers of meaning and the profound impact they have had on the world. The Hebrew Bible, a cornerstone of Jewish and Christian traditions, is a complex and multifaceted text. It is not merely a collection of stories, but a tapestry of narrative styles that offer different perspectives on the human condition. These styles, Saga, deuteronomistic, and priestly, each contribute uniquely to the richness of the text and the depth of its insights. The Saga style of Hebrew narrative is perhaps the most intriguing. It is characterized by its plain, laconic prose, where the focus is on the events themselves, with minimal commentary on the emotions or appearances of the characters. This style is reminiscent of the Icelandic sagas, which also present a pared-down, matter-of-fact account of events. In the Hebrew Bible, Saga style is most evident in the narrative books, such as the early chapters of the books of Samuel and Kings. One of the most striking examples of Saga style is the account of David becoming king over the northern kingdom of Israel. The passage describes how Abner, a general of Saul, negotiates with David to bring all of Israel under his rule. David, in turn, demands the return of his wife, Michal, who had been given to another man. The text states, Abner sent messages to David at Hebron, saying, "To whom does the land belong? Make your covenant with me, and I will give you my support to bring all Israel over to you." He said, "Good, I will make a covenant with you. But one thing I require of you. You shall never appear in my presence unless you bring Saul's daughter Michal when you come to see me." Then David sent messengers to Saul's son Ishbal, saying, "Give me my wife Michal, to whom I became engaged at the price of 100 foreskins of the Philistines." Ishbal sent and took her from her husband, Paltiel the son of Laish. But her husband went with her, weeping as he walked behind her all the way to Bahurim. Then Abner said to him, "Go back home." So he went back. This passage is a masterclass in subtlety. It does not explicitly state the emotional turmoil of the characters or the moral implications of their actions. Instead, it allows the reader to infer the tragedy of Paltiel, who is forced to abandon his wife, and the cold calculation of David, who uses Michal as a political bargaining chip. The lack of overt commentary invites the reader to engage deeply with the text, to fill in the gaps with their own interpretations and emotions. The origins of Saga style are shrouded in mystery. Unlike the rich literary traditions of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, where thousands of texts have been preserved on papyrus and clay tablets, the Hebrew Bible is our primary source for understanding this style. The scarcity of other Hebrew texts from the same period makes it difficult to trace the evolution of Saga style. However, its sophisticated yet restrained nature suggests a highly developed literary tradition, one that values the power of understatement and the reader's ability to read between the lines. In stark contrast to the subtle and restrained Saga style, the deuteronomistic style is overtly moral and didactic. This style is characterized by its clear judgments on the actions of the characters, often framing them in terms of obedience or disobedience to God's laws. The deuteronomistic style is most prominent in the books of Kings and in the book of Deuteronomy itself, which serves as the primary source of its moral and theological framework. A classic example of deuteronomistic style is the treatment of King Omri in the Book of Kings. The passage states, "In the 31st year of King Asa of Judah, Omri began to reign over Israel. He reigned for 12 years, 6 of them in Tirzah. He bought the hill of Samaria from Shemer for 2 talents of silver. He fortified the hill and called the city that he built Samaria, after the name of Shemer, the owner of the hill. Omri did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did more evil than all who were before him, for he walked in all the way of Jeroboam son of Nebat, and in the sins that he caused Israel to commit, provoking the Lord, the God of Israel, to anger by their idols. Now the rest of the acts of Omri that he did, and the power that he showed, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Omri slept with his ancestors and was buried in Samaria. His son Ahab succeeded him." This passage offers a stark assessment of Omri's reign, focusing on his moral failings rather than his political achievements. Despite his success in building Samaria and consolidating his power, Omri is condemned for his idolatry and the sins he caused Israel to commit. The deuteronomistic style is unambiguous in its moral judgment, leaving no room for ambiguity or interpretation. The reader is left with a clear understanding of the divine perspective on Omri's actions. The deuteronomistic style is closely tied to the book of Deuteronomy, which emphasizes the importance of adhering to God's laws and the consequences of disobedience. This focus on the law, or Torah, as the focal point of religious life, is a hallmark of deuteronomistic thought. The concentration on the law and its centrality in Jewish and later Christian tradition can be traced back to this style, which emerged around the time of King Josiah's reforms in the 7th century BC. The priestly style of Hebrew narrative is perhaps the most distinctive. It is characterized by its ritualistic and repetitive nature, often using set formulas and detailed descriptions of religious practices. This style is most evident in the Pentateuch, particularly in the books of Leviticus and Numbers, which deal extensively with matters of purity, worship, and liturgy. A prime example of priestly style is the passage describing the Israelites' journey through the wilderness under the leadership of Moses. The text states, "On the day the tabernacle was set up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, the tent of the covenant. And from evening until morning it was over the tabernacle, having the appearance of fire. It was always so. The cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night." Whenever the cloud lifted from over the tent, then the Israelites would set out. And in the place where the cloud settled down, there the Israelites would camp. At the command of the Lord, the Israelites would set out. And at the command of the Lord, they would camp. As long as the cloud rested over the tabernacle, they would remain in camp. Even when the cloud continued over the tabernacle for many days, the Israelites would keep the charge of the Lord and would not set out. Sometimes the cloud would remain for a few days over the tabernacle, and according to the command of the Lord, they would remain in camp. Then, according to the command of the Lord, they would set out. Sometimes the cloud would remain from evening until morning. And when the cloud lifted in the morning, they would set out. Or if it continued for a day and a night, when the cloud lifted, they would set out. Whether it was 2 days or a month or a longer time that the cloud continued over the tabernacle, resting upon it, the Israelites would remain in camp and would not set out. But when it lifted, they would set out. At the command of the Lord, they would camp. And at the command of the Lord, they would set out. This passage is a prime example of the priestly style's repetitive and ritualistic nature. It uses a set formula to describe the Israelites' movements, emphasizing the role of divine guidance in their journey. The repetition serves to reinforce the importance of following God's commands and the significance of the tabernacle in their worship practices. The priestly style is closely associated with the priestly class in ancient Israel, who were responsible for maintaining the rituals and purity laws that governed religious life. The emphasis on detailed descriptions of religious practices and the use of set formulas reflects the priestly concern with order and precision in worship. The first chapter of Genesis, which describes the creation of the world, is another classic example of priestly style. It is marked by its structured and formulaic narrative, with each day of creation described in a similar pattern. In the shadow of that sprawling city, the ancient scroll still holds its secrets, but now we can see them more clearly. The Hebrew Bible is not just a collection of stories. It is a rich tapestry of narrative styles, each with its own unique voice and message. The Saga style, with its laconic and subtle prose, invites us to engage deeply with the text, to read between the lines and draw our own conclusions. The deuteronomistic style, with its moral clarity, provides a clear framework for understanding the consequences of human actions in the eyes of God. The priestly style, with its ritualistic and repetitive nature, emphasizes the importance of order and precision in religious life. These styles, though diverse, are united in their ability to speak to the human condition, to offer insights into the complexities of life, and to provide a moral and ethical framework for living. The Hebrew Bible, in its various styles, continues to resonate with readers today, offering a timeless message that is as relevant now as it was when those ancient stories were first written.